It's really lovely to see this kind of turnout for my talk. Thank you so much for making time. And it's especially nice to see so many dads in the audience. This is the topic that I'm speaking on is something that's incredibly close to my heart. I'm going to be going through it quite quickly, but I'll try and leave a few minutes at the end for any questions that you might have. So please, if you've got any questions, I can't take them during the presentation, otherwise I'm going to get into trouble timing-wise. But by all means, shout at the end, or otherwise you're welcome to come and visit me at the Love to Learn stand afterwards with pleasure. So let's get straight into it. Just as a very brief background, I'm going to whiz through this. For those who don't know me, I'm the MD of Love to Learn curriculum, which is a homeschooling curriculum. I lead an amazing team of people, and I don't say that lightly. And I'm also the host of a podcast series called On the Mark Homeschooling. My claim to fame, though, is that I'm the father of 2 girls and the husband to Ivana, who is the original author of Love to Learn. Both my daughters were homeschooled right through. They never went to a mainstream school for a single day in their life. We've been in this industry now for over 20 years. And one of my daughters actually works in our business. She works for Imperial International College. She's at the stand. And my younger daughter lives in California. She's also married. Both my daughters, by God's grace, are very happily married. In my years of when we homeschooled, I made a lot of mistakes. And that's partly why I'm so passionate about sharing it with dads, predominantly dads, that you don't make the same mistakes I made. By all means, make your own mistakes, but if you can learn from some of mine, I really pray and hope that that'll be the case for you. So why is this talk for dads? Well, to a large extent, seminars and expos of this nature are focused on ladies. Because, and sorry, I'm not meaning to be sexist, I mean from the point of view that probably very rarely is dads involved in the homeschooling day to day. 99% of the time, in my experience of over 20 years in this business, it's the moms who are doing the homeschooling. And a lot of these talks are about the what, where, how, when, why of homeschooling. And dads don't always, from my experience, know where to fit in. They kind of don't know what role to play. And I want to share you very briefly, I was in the motor industry with BMW South Africa for 15 years. And during that time, we then started homeschooling. And my approach was I work very hard, very long hours. I loved what I did at BMW. It's an exquisite company to work for. But I would sometimes go up to 3 days and my children wouldn't see me. And I hadn't gone away on business because I would leave in the morning before they got up and I would get home at night after they'd gone to bed. So I'd see my kids, but they were always asleep. They didn't see me, often for days on end, because I was working so hard. But I justified it to myself because my approach was, darling, it's what I call my wife when I'm in a good mood, darling, I work very hard and long hours so that you can stay home and homeschool our daughters. So like it. Okay, I'm not saying I was right. I'm telling you that's how I used to think. And the result for many dads who have that approach, and I've spoken to many dads over the years, is that you default to focusing on providing for your family. There's food on the table. There's clothing on your back. There's a roof over your head. You know, get off my case. And I just completely missed the boat. And dads, as you're sitting here today, please don't miss the boat. And that's what I want to share with you today. What you must understand, dads, as you sit here today, and moms who are here, and wives, forgive me, but I'm speaking proxy for you. And if you've got an issue with anything I say, please come and correct me afterwards. In all the years that I've dealt with families, I've never had a mom come and say, Mark, that's not at all what I'm thinking. But it might be, and I don't mean to be arrogant when I say that at all. Guys, what you've got to understand is as much as your intentions are good, by having that intention of I work so you can stay home and homeschool, you're the privileged one, from my perspective, so like it. Your wife interprets that as disinterest. Not that your wife's ungrateful for the money that you bring home. Not that she's ungrateful for the house, etc., etc. And I know your intention is not to communicate disinterest. But be careful, because that's the message that gets interpreted if you don't clearly communicate. The promise I had on my life and why I left BMW. I heard God say to me, I didn't hear his audible voice, but in my spirit I clearly heard the Lord say to me, Mark, I want you to join Ivana in running Love to Learn for 2 reasons. Number 1, homeschooling restores families. And number 2, homeschooling impacts generations. And I can tell you in 20 years, I've seen that confirmed over and over and over again. And I can tell you now that that's what awaits you, for those of you who are here today. Can I just have a quick show of hands? Who is already homeschooling? Okay? Anyone so just to get an idea, who's not homeschooling yet? Are you thinking of it? Cool. It is the best decision you'll ever make as long as you live. And that's an unbiased opinion. Okay. Here's the heads up, guys. And I'm talking now to dads specifically, so moms, please bear with me. The world would have us believe that we are only important because of the work we do. Men especially are prone to this lie. And as a result, we work harder and longer, thinking that by providing more materially for our family, it will make up for our absence. Being a father is only secondary in importance to being a husband. And both are enriched by your being present. From a biblical standpoint, and if there's anyone who doesn't subscribe to a biblical viewpoint of the world, please understand I'm not here in any way to make offensive statements. I really don't mean to be offensive in what I say, but I do believe that God's word is right and perfect always. And within that context, your priority is not to your boss, it's not to your work, it's not to your employment, as much as that's an important thing to live out. Your priority of importance is first as a husband, second as a father. When your kids are young, you're the hero. For those of you who've got little kids, you will know that. Anyone here with teenagers? There are a couple of you, great. You will know that to a large extent, they soon learn that being loving and respectful to your parents is actually very uncool in the world. When I was a boy of 14, this is a quote from someone. When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant, I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years. Any idea who said that? You're going to be shocked. 200 years ago. Mark Twain. So this is not a new thing that we're seeing in society today. It's been around for ages. My big bugbear. TV sitcoms. Every single one, you name it. Their agenda is to portray dads as bumbling fools who have no worth other than as an ATM, and their only skill is being able to open jars that are too tight and kill bugs. Think about every sitcom you can think of. The fathers are always portrayed as idiots, fools, bumbling along, barely making it through life, who dish out money. And it's utter nonsense. You are so much more than an ATM. And you are certainly not someone to be ridiculed, especially in the godly order. It's intolerable. You're a husband and a father. And those are awesome responsibilities. For someone who's got grown-up children now, I can tell you it is the most awesome responsibility. And when you fulfill this role correctly, you take pressure off your wives. And you'll promote a homeschooling environment that is so conducive to learning, joyful in your home. I'm not saying homeschooling is easy. Hands up those of you who know that homeschooling is not for sissies. All of you, trust me. And you guys are thinking about it, it's not for sissies. But it is the most rewarding thing you will do. Now you might ask, but hang on, what pressure's on my wife? She's home all day. I'm the one who's going and stressing out in the corporate world or whatever. She gets to be at home, and the fridge is only 5 feet away, and the kettle's over. I'm not saying all of you are like this, but I can tell you in my experience of over 20 years, in many environments, this is what moms are dealing with. Not always advertently. Guys are just oblivious sometimes. We just somehow just don't get it. They're running the house, the cleaning and care of the home, preparation of meals, they're homeschooling, and. Some of them are even also holding down a part-time job of some description. There's huge pressure on that. Whereas their partners typically cook occasionally, they go to work, but they aren't involved in a lot more. And part of what I want to say to you today is, please, if that happens to in any way mirror your home environment, please change. Secondly, what you guys don't understand is mom carries the responsibility for education and character. The buck stops with her. And even if it doesn't stop with her in your mind, believe me when I tell you that's what's in her mind. Because who's the one who's doing the homeschooling? You're not, you're at work. So if ever there's any question, when Granny and Grandpa come to visit and they interrogate the children, because they're homeschooled, and I didn't think, I told that son-in-law of mine, or I told that daughter-in-law of mine, that shouldn't be, they're going to look for every excuse they can. And even if they're not, trust me, in your wife's mind, that's what she's concerned about. Someone's going to catch my child out, and then they're going to question homeschooling. And if they're questioning homeschooling, they're questioning me, because I'm the one who's responsible. They often feel, your wife feels like she's living under a microscope. Everywhere she goes, every tea she goes to with her friends, because most of her friends' children are probably in a mainstream school. So they're all questioning. Every time you go to other family members who are not homeschooling and who didn't support homeschooling, and. There's this constant sense of everything I do, I'm being watched. Even guys, if they're not watching. I'm telling you, that's what's in her mind a lot of the time. And it's stressful. And when things do go wrong, as they will, welcome to life. She's the one who receives the criticism, not you. Or even the perceived criticism, because she's the one who's doing the homeschooling. So guys, be cognizant of this, please. Homeschoolers, before you go and visit someone, if you were honest with me, I'd ask you, but I know you won't be in this environment, how much time you spend briefing your children in the back seat of the car about how they must behave, how they must say thank you, please, be courteous, don't run around, stay off the furniture, They get this 20-minute lecture before you arrive at your friend's house. And then you're there and the children still misbehave. And then your wife thinks, you see everyone saying it's because they're homeschooled. Well, little news flash for you. All children misbehave. Not just homeschooled children. Okay? Because they're children. Okay? It's going to happen. It's got nothing to do with the fact that they're homeschooled. But that's part of what's going through your wife's mind. These children have got to be perfect. So that people will think I'm doing a good job. And it's never going to be perfect. And you need to support your wife in that knowledge. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list. I'm just trying to set a scene. So your question is, well, what can I do? As I said earlier, God's ways are always perfect, always right and worth it. His design for men as a covering of their wives is an awesome privilege. Gentlemen, if you don't know that you're meant to be a covering for your wife, you do now. There are so many ways that you can support and get involved. But first, what are you not here to do today? You are not here to carry the proverbial, just to carry the proverbial checkbook. Please understand that. Your wife needs you to be there. So often in the past at these expos, thankfully I haven't seen any today, but there used to be rugby on TV. So the dads would kind of rock up and say, listen, you let me know what you want to buy. It's cool. You can find me here watching the rugby. No. Show up. Be with your wife. To a large extent, now women talk through their thinking to come to a solution. They don't actually need you to comment a lot of the time. Just hear me out. They need you to be there, guys, so please play that role. So what are you here to do today? And I'm going to go through these quickly because I'm running out of time very rapidly. Get involved in the decision making, as I said. Be a covering for your wife by helping her decide on curriculum material. Sometimes she'll just want to bounce an idea off you. What do you think of this versus this? That one we saw at that table. How do you think that compares to this? Just be there, guys. And I'm not in any way trying to downplay this thing of like, well, just be a puppet. Your wife really wants you to be involved. So please be involved. The perfect equation, 1 + 1 = 1. On what do I base that? Genesis 2:24, Matthew 19:5, and Ephesians 5:31. Anyone know what that says? I'll help you. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. Remember what I said, God's way is always perfect. The decision to homeschool is yours, not the grandparents', not your brother, not your sister, not her brother, not her sister, not your best friend, not your next door neighbor. You make the decision to homeschool, you're answerable for your children. You make the decision, irrespective of what the rest of your family thinks. I had a client once, he said, Mark, you don't understand. My mother and father are both teachers. Her mother and father are both teachers. My brother and sister are lecturers. And now we're telling them we want to homeschool. Frankly, it's irrelevant. It's your family. You make that decision. And to grandparents who are sitting here, I say this with the utmost respect. Butt out. Okay, it's not your family. Your children have left and cleft, whatever the right word is. They have leaved and cleaved. And it's your decision now as mom and dad to make the decision. You make that call. I can tell you now, it's not a matter of will, but may, or it's a matter of will, not may, and when, not if. One day, if it hasn't happened already, I'll be very surprised if it hasn't, you will come home from work. Hi, honey, I'm home. How was your day? I can absolutely guarantee you, verbatim, you will hear these words. Yeah, we had quite a nice day, but I'm not sure if I'm doing enough. Anyone identify with that? Thank you. Not surprising. That's your opportunity, boys and girls. Sorry, more specifically the boys. Dads, pick up the phone the friends who've got children. Hear me very carefully. Phone your friends who've got children of the same grade level equivalent as your children. Tell those parents, you'll pick the children up from school tomorrow and bring them to play with your children who are being homeschooled, because we know homeschooled children are never socialized. You bring them home. When they get there, ask them to have a look at their books. And you will be, and let me tell you, if you're doing 3 things in homeschooling: diligence, commitment, regularity. Diligence, commitment, regularity. Not sergeant major, not lack of joy, with all the joy, all the fun. There is not a school on the face of planet Earth that will compare with your homeschooling. I underwrite and guarantee to you now. So when you look at those children's books who are in the same grade levels as your children in homeschooling, if you're homeschooling with diligence, commitment, and regularity, I can assure you your wife will be very, very comforted. And then in 6 months' time, a year's time, you will come home, hi honey, don't know if I'm doing it. Pick up the phone, Dad. Phone those friends. Make that call. Be a covering for your wife by helping her maintain perspective. I'm really out of time. You make time. Show an interest in what your children are doing. Share some of the load. Modeling is more effective than mentoring. Please hear that. Children love to imitate, so please give them something great to imitate. As a dad, don't be an absentee like I was. Be there for your children right from the word go. You can make an impact even if your time is limited. When my girls were little, my special time would be in the evening. I would read to them before they went to bed. I have such fond memories of reading Black Beauty, the most emotional book to read, if anyone's read it. Anyone read Black Beauty? I remember reading it and I've got this lump in my throat and my girls are asking, Dad, why have you stopped reading? Like, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It's a beautiful book. The vet in harness. If vets could fly, his name's gone out of my head. Those books, I have such wonderful memories of reading those with my children. I'm not saying, guys, you've got to come home, work all day, come home and homeschool all night. That's not at all what I'm saying. But you can look for cameo moments to be involved. That'll make such lasting. If you're going to ask my daughter now at our stand, what are some of the memories you have of your dad when you were growing up from a homeschooling point of view? James Herriot, that's the name. If you haven't read any James Herriot books, get them. Protect. As parents, we are constantly juggling balls. Some are rubber, some are glass. Jobs, hobbies, sports, all of those things are rubber balls. Our marriage, children, health. Guys, those are glass balls. If you drop a rubber ball, it bounces back. But glass balls break. So please be a covering for your wife and family by guarding and prioritizing your marriage at all costs. I don't know who needs to hear that this morning, but there's someone here who needs to hear that. And I hope you take that to heart. Finally, be prepared to give an account. One day we will all stand before the Lord Jesus Christ and we will give an account. I believe that unequivocally. What would you like to hear him say? I put it to you, the 7 most encouraging words known to mankind in English. Anyone know what those are? Well done, my good and faithful servant. Dads, I hope you can now appreciate just how vital your role is as a father and a husband in your homeschooling family. It's so much more than being just a financial provider. May you be encouraged and may you play your role to the full. Are there any questions?